Well, hello. You are in for a special treat on this podcast. We're actually taking a section of our new workbook on how to create your 2024 strategic plan. And you'll actually get to sit in and listen in for free on one of the sections. This one is all on how frustrating reporting can be, but how necessary it is for you to get your reporting right to have a strategic plan. So take a listen. And if you'd like our new workbook on your insurance agency strategic plan, building your annual plan, you can go to agencyperformancepartners.com, insurance-agency-strategic-planning, or it's just on our homepage too. That way you can go ahead and get your workbook to get your agency's plan on track for next year. I'm going to stop talking so you can listen to one of these great sections that you get with this workbook. All right, so welcome everybody. We are now on the next section of your strategic planning guide. We know that this is probably the section that you can't wait for, but also dreading. Building your agency reports, right? Bobby and I were just catching up before we hit record on this. I think reports are one of those things that every agency wants, knows that they need, but the actual execution of it is usually a nightmare. What do you think, Bobby?
I agree. I think most agencies just don't know either how to get the data, or if they know how to get the data, they don't know what to do with it once they get it. It's all just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. And so they get really confused and overwhelmed, and a lot of times just abandon shit.
Absolutely. Or they run it and they don't trust the data. So I like to say, trust is not built naturally, right? Like I don't sit next to somebody in an airplane and be like, I trust you. Like you have to work at it. And so you run this report and like, that's not our new business number. We throw our hands up in the air. And the reality is that the report is what your system is showing based on the information you've outlined. So maybe you need to learn how to run the report, what filters you run, or how to process data. But I want to say this, we're shooting this. This is our annual planning guide. It is planning for 2024. The modern agency in 2024 in a hard market has to have data. Otherwise, you're operating from feelings. And the feeling is the sky is falling. Data shows most of our agencies are growing. I know you are a big data nerd like myself. So I am excited to talk a little bit about this. And I'm going to make my soapbox pitch. And I'm going to let you do that, Bobby, of the reasons why agencies need reports. My top 3 reasons why you have to get your reports right is you have to operate on facts, not feelings. And just this last week alone, I have dealt with a lot of agency feelings where the team feels that they don't have enough time to make renewal calls, but they took a total of 14 calls that week. And a 5-day work week, that is less than 3 calls a day that they took inbound. So I'm really curious what they're doing. And so the facts help us with that. My second biggest thing that you need in the reports is you don't know when to celebrate success if you have no measuring stick. The last reason is the data will give you clues on what you need to focus on. Otherwise, you're randomly solving things that might not drive impact. So those are my 3. What do you think, Bobby? What are your major reasons why you feel like 2024 is the year of the report? Or the pig, or whatever the Chinese New Year says.
I think 2024 has to be the year of reports. I mean, we really need to start getting the data and understand what it is that we're working on. If the staff is busy, what are they busy working on? If we need a new piece of technology, how do we determine what that is? Or if we're going to go outside and hire some outside resources like VAs, we can't make great agency decisions based on inaccurate data. And so the importance of data is going to just drive everything that we do. And I feel like a lot of times agencies go out and they make decisions, and especially when it comes to bright, shiny objects, right? They see, ooh, look at so-and-so is using this thing, or so-and-so is using that thing. They hear about this great thing that's going to solve all their problems. And guess what? It may not work in your tech stack, or whatever.
No, say it no.
Shocking, right? Like, oh, it doesn't integrate with my thing that I've already invested in. And then how do we train the team, and how do we monitor adoption when new things happen? So there's so much that goes into the reports, the figures, the ROI. We got to know all of these things, and we can't just operate on Bobby says she's busy today and needs the new next best technology because she doesn't want to make her renewal calls.
Yeah. And I'll say the flip side is I see some agencies, they have no idea when to hire, right? So they get caught off guard. And so when you have the data, you can like, okay, well, we're coming up within $30,000 of this revenue. It's time to start looking and finding the right decision. So data gives you so much opportunity. But I will say this on my soapbox moment. I've said this. I think that it's overly frustrating. It's overly cumbersome in this industry, the reporting. And you and I both know why. It's pulling accounting, it's pulling download, it's pulling all these things, and it's messy. But there should be, in my humble opinion, better ways to clean up the data and make it easier. And I think the systems are getting better, but the agencies have to pay attention to a lot of it too and make sure it's right. And so as you guys go through this section, our anticipation is that you pull the report so you just understand where we are. I like to think of this as stepping on the scale after Christmas. It's a little bit of a fictitious number. You know you'll have some cleanup. We know we have some processes, but this will also help you guys pick what processes to work on first, what we need to focus on. So I like to think of this initial data as don't make decisions on it. Understand that we're here. And when you see that half your book is missing revenue numbers in it, now we can go clean that up to get there. So it's giving you a roadmap. Do you feel like that's a fair statement here for our strategic planners?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we all need to know where we're starting. Anytime we set a goal, just like Kelly said, let's get on the scale. Let's see where we're at. And now we know where we need to go. So don't let ugly, dirty data scare you away from the process. Embrace it, love it, and know that it's going to get better. And we're going to help you walk through it to get there.
Yeah. So we'll give them a rundown of the reports we're going to focus on in this section. So we have our activity report. And I will say this, we're system agnostic. So if I back the train up a tad bit, you're going to hear us use words and sometimes people get confused. Like I logged into my system, I couldn't find an activity report. So when you get to this section, watch it. We're going to try to use as much vocabulary, but every system is slightly different. If you can't, you'll get the gist of the definition of the report to be able to call your system and find out. Now, if you are so blessed to be on AMBest 360, Applied Epic, Hawksoft, EasyLinks, there's one more, isn't there? Did I get the four? Sorry.
The big four.
It's the big four. We have retention. We also have QQ. But for this purposes, for those four systems, okay, we have a guide of how to run the reports that we've paid the management system consultants to put up with screenshots, et cetera. Now, from time to time, the systems can do updates, but it should be a good starting point for you all. Okay. So if you're on the systems, go to this course, download those. This will help you. So the reports that we're going to look at, activity report. This is just overview of what got entered into your system, what logged in. Download came in. We did a letter. Somebody called in. It's all of the system activities. This will give you an idea of the volume and the quantity of work. Bobby, you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I think activity reports are going to be so important to understand what is happening because this is where our team will tell us they're busy, right? And so we need to know what's happening. What is download taking? What's going on with our client and our system and all of the activities that are happening.
It'll also tell you if your team is overwhelmed, maybe they're doing a lot of certificates. Could we maybe send that to a VA? Could we play a portal? I can tell you so many clients will log in. There's so many payments that people didn't realize. And then we can work on a strategy. So the data is going to give you the clues, not what you think. I mean, I can tell you many agencies like, we're really good at payments. Oh, everybody pays in cash or EFT. And I'm like, you have a little gap here of what's going on. The next one is overdue activities. So our version of overdue and agency's version of overdue sometimes is different, but let me explain where my head's at. My version of overdue is if it was due on 8/26, August 26th, and it is August 29th, and it has not been done, it is overdue. Some agencies try to negotiate with me. Like, can we do like a 3-day? And I'm like, no, the full purpose of a due date is a date that is due. So they should either be moving it along or understanding that they put too much on a day. The overdue is also very telling because there are some people who just live in piles of backlog, like 100, 200 activities. And Bobby, it makes me sad and scared for them.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I was talking with we were doing the coaching session with an agency yesterday or Friday, and we were talking about, making callbacks and scheduling appointments to call people back. And they said, oh, well, I told the client I'd call them back by 2 on Friday. Well, how do you feel when your cable company says, we'll be out there between 8 and 2 on Friday? Like, maybe we need to have a little more thought around that.
Clear my schedule. I think
if you were to tell me, I'm going to call you by 2, there's probably an opportunity that I'm going to be sitting in a call like this, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to answer your phone. So we need to be overdue activities. Tell us, what is the date that we need to have the thing done? And if we can't have it done by that date, then we need to renegotiate the date and understand that we need to follow back up with that client or our underwriter or our producer and really make sure that we're keeping the promises that we're making.
Absolutely. Next up is book of business, which oftentimes needs some cleanup. And we're going to walk through this when we go to that book specifically. But, this is like a picture of your agency at that moment in time. How many policies, what type of policies, with carriers, premium, revenue. And it's a really dynamic, but I think a lot of times there's a lot of gaps and holes that we see, like maybe we're assigned to old CSRs. And so now you can't get an accurate book of business for that one account manager to know, are they under or over where they should be? I love the book of business report because it's so telling, and it's also an opportunity to start cleaning it up. And when that's clean, the whole rest of the reporting becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that book of business report, so the agencies really understand, and I love the way that you always explain it, which is it's kind of that snapshot in time. It's always a living, breathing thing that's happening, because at this moment in time, these are the policies that I have in force, but somebody could call me in 5 minutes and cancel a policy or bind a new policy, and that changes that. So thinking about it in terms of like a certificate is a certificate that is valid at this moment in time. The book of business, same thing, right? It's going to be ever changing. And the one you run tomorrow is not going to be the same as I ran today.
Yeah. And our next one is new business, which I know tons of agencies are running side hustle spreadsheets. And I've seen it all like, well, we handwrite it in a logbook, and I've got this spreadsheet because the management system's never right. And I said, neither is your spreadsheet, neither is your logbook. We need one place, and you do need to clean out your rewrites, which we'll talk about in detail when we get there. But a lot of times you may be paying producers too much because they rewrote a policy and it's coded as new business. And lo and behold, nobody's going to go knocking on your doorstep and be like, I think you paid me too much commission here. And especially in a hard market, right? Where it's not always as easy to attract that new business. The markets are tightening. Maybe they're rewriting a higher level. You have to watch this.
Or your producers are just trusting you and they're not looking either.
True.
So when no one is looking, no one's really accountable. So we really need to stay on top of that new business and make sure that we scrub it and clean those things out that shouldn't be being paid as new.
And that leads us to our last business, which is the reverse, right? Sometimes you're on your last policy, you're like, that's way too many. That's a rewrite. That's a rewrite. This is this. It's like, that's okay. You have to be coding your system correctly to categorize those. And I love the lost policy reasons of why did someone leave? Not insured's request. That's what the carrier downloads. It's like, the insured requested it. We didn't just go willy-nilly canceling policies on people. But did they go somewhere else? Did we rewrite them? This will give you a lot of intelligence of how strong your team is at truly working a book and what training they need to strengthen up how to handle somebody who wants to cancel. So that's another huge one right there. And the last one is financials. We're not going to go too deep into this, but you'd be remiss in not looking at your financials. We did this at APP this year, trying to get ready for budgeting, and made just a lot of adjustments in our QuickBooks because like product categories, as you develop, you want to know some more detailed information. So we're not going to go into that, but definitely check it out as an opportunity to take a look at. So a couple tips on getting your reports. First of all, I'm a big believer that a lot of management systems struggle with reporting and because they don't give you historical data. So they give you this like lump of data, right? It doesn't say I sold 30 new business policies last month, 45 this month. it's kind of like you have to sift through the data. So for that reason, we recommend you export all your data into an Excel or CSV format that allows you to manipulate that data. Now, some of you out there might be like Excel ninjas and good. Some might be moderate. Some might be like, I can't do anything in Excel. That's okay. It's easy enough to get help with Excel and work within that. But running the PDFs doesn't allow you to sort and filter, and it's just you're going to have to print them. It's just, in my humble opinion, it isn't going to give you what you're looking for plan. So another thing is that as you're looking at the reports, don't get overwhelmed if you find a lot of inaccuracies. I recommend you actually take just one report at a time. Don't binge this. Don't be like, I'm going to run all these reports and get through it. Like, you will get like real flat real quick. Take the activity report, watch the video that we're going to give you with tips and tricks on what to look for, and then kind of just say, hey, here's 3 things we need to clean up on here. The pursuit of data excellence is a journey, not a destination. Don't think you can go to your team and say, here's the 15 things I need to do in our system right now, and we're going to do them. You're going to need to kind of work through them a tad bit. The other thing too, Bobby, that I think be good for you to kind of speak to a little bit, is sharing the numbers with people. So, you've seen this happen. I know that sometimes there's some trepidation agencies have about sharing numbers. And I'm not talking about financials. Like, you don't need to post, here's what I make every year, right? But just how much new business, because that level of transparency is very difficult, right? If they post, here's everybody's overdue activities, that top person is going to have a reaction to it. So we sometimes shy away from this level of transparency and performance. And I just want you to share, like, what has been your experience in working with your clients as you share the numbers?
I think initially there's some hesitancy, right? Because account managers get very sensitive. They might feel like, they're going to use this information against me in some way. But I think ultimately they see that it then begins to drive good behavior, because they realize that the agency is using this information to make their jobs easier. So when we can take the data and we can really analyze it and we can help to make people's jobs easier, it really helps them then to drive the agency towards the results that we're really looking for, which is growth, which is efficiency, which is a better customer experience. So when we start revealing those things and sharing those things, you bring people into your plan and they feel like they're part of it. Now we're not dictating to them what they need to do. We're asking them to be part of our team, sharing that information. And it's amazing how a lot of times they are ready to hustle and jump on that journey and be like, let's go. Because they want to see those figures change. They want to see those numbers change. They really want to do a good job.
And I think with the other thing too is it's new for them. So it takes them a few weeks and months to get into it. But it's also identifying that the person who's been the backlog the most, the person who's selling the least, there's nowhere to hide anymore either too. Like, it make it a little scratchy up front, but then it's also like, well, I'm sick of being the person that's last and backlog the most, or the worst salesperson on the team. I need to change. And, it's okay to publicize things. But I will say this, agency owners, as you share data with people, you need to commit to it. It can't be random. It can't be like, sometimes we do it sometimes on Wednesdays, sometimes on Fridays. It needs to be consistent, because that's the only way the team is going to trust the data too. And they're going to have a lot of questions up front. So you have to make a commitment in it, because the top agencies use data to fuel their business decisions. That's the bottom line. So data can be very fun. As we go into, we're going to go into each report next, but I'm going to ask everybody to take a minute and just stop, download those guides if you haven't already for your management system, if we have one. If not, again, it's okay. Watch the video, take some notes, go on YouTube, Google search, go to your system's help desk. They have these reports in your system. Hand to God. These are like baseline management system reports. So do not let that stop you. Take a moment and figure out how to run them, but take them one at a time. So I'm going to ask you guys to open your workbook and just put out your schedule. Okay, I'm going to focus on activity reports this week, or, so that way that you can stay on track with actually gathering up the data that you're going to need to make your plan. Bobby, any other final comments before we dive into our next video on activity reports.
Oh, I'm excited to get into the granular stuff with each report. And so there will be more to come, but get ready. Let's go on this reporting journey together. I'm excited to see how we can fuel your business so that you can make the best decisions for 2024.
And here's the last thing, guys. If this is a community, right? So in the school, you can leave a comment like, here's a great tip for my system, or here's the name of Erixie if we don't have that. Like, you can also help the whole community who's hopefully going to help you back as your strategic planning too. So don't hesitate to use the comments to give people tips and tricks in the system. I think we can all use that. So without further ado, we're going to close this, let you go fill out your timeline, download your report guides, and we're going to dive into the first report, which is the activity report. We'll see you in the next video.
See you soon.
Well, if that didn't leave you fired up to tackle your agency's reporting, I don't know what is. You can't manage what you can't measure. And most importantly, it is so critical to operate your agency on facts, not feelings. So inside of the workbook, we also have guides for AMS 360, EasyLinks, HawkSoft, and Applied Epic on how to get these reports that you're going to need to make sure your agency is on track. Do not operate your agency on feelings next year, only operate on facts. And if you're listening to this, our workbook on getting ready for 2024, building your agency strategic plan, is on sale $4.95 from October 15th till October 31st. And then it goes up to $9.95 for all those people who are late and don't get their planning on early, but still an awesome opportunity. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you in our next podcast.